Hello everyone, welcome to Ruby on Rails course. We are learning Ruby on Rails topics one by one. In this video, we are going to talk about a topic called scaffolding. Let us learn how to do the scaffolding with Rails. Before getting into the video, we already learned the background of this Rails technology. It's one of the open source framework which is used to create web applications. It's a full stack framework. It is working according to MVC, Model, View and Controller Pattern. So before getting into that topics one by one, let me introduce myself. I am Krishnaveni, having 14 years of experience in this Ruby on Rails, and I am working as a software developer and providing training. So in this video, we are going to learn about MVC, Model, View, Controller Architecture, MVC, Manual Files Creation. So how to do scaffolding, scaffold workflow, and the basic operation of the scaffold. That's nothing but CRUD. So we are going to talk about these topics. So before getting into the topics, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel to get latest learning playlist, live update sessions from the live industry experts and much more. So watch all the videos, share it with your friends and make use of all the available resources. So let us get into the topics. What do you mean by MVC? MVC is a common architecture pattern. So model, view and controller is called as MVC. Okay. So but MVC is used by other programming languages too, not only Rails. Okay. For example, .NET is also using the same MVC concept. Okay. So model, view, controller is a common name. So when it's come in terms of Rails, so it will be called as model will be denoted as active record, view will be denoted as action view, and controller will be denoted as action controller. So the technical names, component names, okay, so that is called active record, action view and action controller in Rails. Okay, so you should know that MVC is nothing but model, view and controller. In terms of Rails, they will be called with their technical name. Okay, so what do you mean by a model? Model is nothing but the backend database where you are storing your data. We usually call it as backend, okay, backend database. And view is nothing but the front end view you are seeing on your browser. For example, whenever you are opening your Google or Gmail, you will be seeing the HTML pages, right? Those HTML pages are called as views, okay. And controller. So this file cannot be seen. It is the core file where you are writing your code or business logic. You will be writing your controller and your code and scripts, business logics will go here. So this particular controller is called as middleman. It is sitting in the middle and it is controlling the request and responses. So model will be called as backend database, view will be called as front end, and controller will be called as middleman. Okay, MVC, front end, backend and middleman concepts. Okay, so now you need to understand how this MVC is working. Okay, suppose let us take the example of Gmail login. Whenever you are trying to log in from your Gmail account, okay, you will be providing your credentials. Credentials means username and password. So you will be giving your email ID and password. So whenever you are registered, you already registered with Gmail, you already sign up for an account. So whenever you are giving the login details, it will first forward it to the controller. Forward to the controller means the request you have made to you just make it from your login page. What is that? You need to log in into your inbox. That is a request. That will be forwarded to the controller first via router. Router will be keep on listening to the paths, otherwise URLs, which URL it need to use. So that is nothing but the address of that particular URL you have given in the URL box. I will talk about that. So right now the router will be forwarded to the corresponding controller, because more than one controller we can use it in our Rails application. So it will forward your request to the controller first. The controller will forward that particular request to the model. That means what is the request you have made? You are trying to log in. So at the time, what the model should do, it should take your email ID and password, and it should check whether the registered email ID and password is already there in the backend database or not. So here we are using the database. It should check that the particular username and password you have shared is available in the backend database or not. That is called authentication. So once you are entering your email ID and password, it should check that email ID password registered, it's already available in the Google database or not. Okay, so how the interaction will take place? Using SQL queries. That means it is trying to fetch a particular detail. So that is called SQL query. You can fetch, you can insert, or you can delete, or you can alter. So those kind of SQL queries are there, right? So that model will interact with the database using SQL queries. So based on that fetching of the record, it may give two types of responses, either positive or negative responses. Positive response means the record is found, so it will be available. Negative response means the record is not available. Okay, so either positive or negative response the database will provide back to the controller. So the database will give either positive or negative responses. Positive response means the record is there. Negative response means the record is not there. Okay, so the controller will receive what is the response from the database. If it's positive, it will load your inbox. Okay, it will load your inbox. That inbox will be displayed back to your browser. If it's negative response, it will give you some kind of error messages. Your password is not correct. Your email ID is not correct. Like that, it will give you list of error messages. Those error messages also displayed back to your browser. So you will be seeing that inbox or error messages on your screen. So this is happening in the background whenever you are just clicking on the login button of your Gmail. So these request and response handling are taking place in a fraction of seconds. Okay, very simple time. Within very short period of response time, these MVC architecture structure is working, and it is taking place in a fraction of seconds. Okay, you need to understand that. So from front end to middleman, middleman to backend, backend to middleman again, middleman to front end again. So this is called one MVC cycle, otherwise complete MVC cycle. So in this architecture part, Rails is working. So let us see a real-time example. Let me take one Gmail account as an example and let us try to log in. Not only Gmail, you can take even Facebook account or any GitHub or whatever account you want to log in, you can able to use that. So let us get into this page. So let me first log out, then I can able to check out this Gmail. Okay, so whenever I am trying to log in into my Gmail account, I will be giving my email ID and password. So let me take one of my email ID, and for time being I am giving wrong password. Okay, I am giving some wrong password and I am trying to click on login. Now I am getting negative response. What is happening here? When I entered the email ID and password, wrong password, it is hitting the controller. The controller is checking with the database whether that particular email ID and password registered or not with the database. Now the database will give negative response because I have given a wrong password. So right now the controller will receive negative response. So that negative response is displaying the list of error messages. Those error messages are displayed back to your browser. Suppose you can see the error messages. Wrong password, try again for forget password or reset. So once I have given the correct password, okay, so when I try to click into login, it will interact with the database and it will be redirecting you to the inbox. Okay, so that is the thing happening in the backend. So right now it will load the inbox. That means the controller is receiving the positive response, so it is loading your inbox. Okay, so this is happening while you are just doing this kind of MVC architecture pattern. So Rails is using that. Okay, whenever you are making the login request or any request from your web application, this cycle is happening in the backend. Okay, so this is how your MVC files is working. I mean MVC architecture pattern is working. So let me give you some kind of detailed architecture. So that is the common MVC. Okay, how that is working. Now let us see how it is working with Rails. Okay, so you will be sitting inside the browser and you will be making the request and request. Okay, that request will be forwarded to the web server. I already told you, whenever you are running any web application, your web server will be keep on running in the background, and it will be running and listening to the port number called 3000. Okay, so Puma, that is the inbuilt web server that comes with Rails by default, and we are using that will be keep on listening to the port number called 3000. After that request will be forwarded to the router or dispatcher. Dispatcher means that will dispatch the request to the corresponding controller. More than one controller will be there, so it will be forwarded to the corresponding controller. The controller will forward it to the database, and it will interact with the database using queries, SQL queries. So the data or errors, as I mentioned you, it may be data, positive response, or errors, negative response. It will be feedback to the controller. Then the controller will decide what to do, whether to load the inbox or to show the error messages or to show some other details. Whatever the actions, it will be displayed back to your browser. So here the request you can make can be anything, HTTP request or SOAP request or atom request, like that. Any request you can make it from your browser. Usually your browser pages will be having HTML, CSS, JavaScript, images and Ajax. So these kind of HTML pages can be connected with this kind of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, those kind of stuff. Okay, and web server you can use it with Apache or some other external web servers as well. And any database you can use it with MySQL, Postgres, SQLite3, any one backend database. Okay, and that's it. So these are the complete architectural diagram of your Rails application. The same MVC with some details. Okay, so that's it about the MVC concept. MVC is nothing but model view controller. That is the architecture pattern Rails is using. Okay, so we have learned how this MVC cycle is working. So how request and response is taking place. Now you need to create those files using manual files creation, and later you can do that with automated command. So that is called Scaffold. I will talk about that later. Right now you need to create it with this particular manual MVC. You need to create model, view, controller file separately. So to do that, there are 5 steps. Okay, first you need to set up the backend database, because you need to store your data, right? So you need to set up your backend database. After that you need to set up your model and then controller and then views, and finally you need to give the set up your routes file. Routes means path. Okay, URL. I will give you the steps one by one. First let us set up the database. So remember, hereafter whenever you are working with your Rails application, I suggest you to open your editor, and using that editor you navigate to your corresponding application. Then you can be able to work on the coding part. Remember that whenever you are creating the corresponding files or anything, you need to work with your editor. So open your current application with your editor. Current application is Grey Campus. We already created this one as a demo, so I am going to use the same app for the running purpose. So here what we need to do, we need to create the manual MVC files. Okay, so first let me set up the database. What we need to do, so database setup is just a simple one line code. Okay, so first what you need to do, first create the database, set up the database and create it. Okay, how you can do that? As I mentioned you, all the configuration of your Rails application will come to your code one by one. So in your configuration folder you can able to find out all the available configuration files including database configuration. So you can open this database.yml file. Okay, so in this file you can find out the default configuration which has been given by Rails by default. So I suggest you to open this file, okay, and then work on the environment which you want to need, which you want to work. For example, development, test and then production. Okay, so there are 3 different environments are there. I already talked about this one. Rails application can run on 3 different environments: development mode, test mode and then production mode. So right now I am going to work on the development mode. So I don't need to configure test or production mode. Simply you can skip that. You need to configure only this particular development mode. Okay, so usually the name will be something like the development.sqlite3. By default, this name will be available. So I always suggest my students to use this particular naming convention. That means Grey Campus underscore development. Always have the name of your app. If it's Grey Campus, give Grey Campus. If your app name is My App, then you need to give something like this, my underscore app underscore development. Usually my underscore app underscore development, something like that. Give the name of your app before the name of your database. This is because if you are working with multiple databases, you can able to track it easily. That is the idea. Okay, I suggest you to give the name of the corresponding database, okay, with the app name preceded by the app name. Okay, so when you give like that, it is easy for you to follow the database. So right now I am using Grey Campus underscore development.sqlite3. See, these default settings available by default. I didn't change anything. I have just removed the unwanted test and then production mode databases which I don't want to use, and I renamed my database Grey underscore campus underscore development. Okay, so by default it is using the database adapter called SQLite3. As I mentioned you already, Rails comes with one database system by default, that is called SQLite3. If you want to change MySQL or Postgres or any other database, you can able to do that. That is very simple. Let me show you how to do that later. So those kind of configuration and all the details will be available in your Rails guides. Okay, Rails guides.rubyonrails.org is the official website for following up your Rails topics. Okay, so it's an official website. They will be updating and they will be keeping the articles for all the available versions of Rails. So you can go here and you can go to the configuration. So you can able to see the configuration of the database here. So as right now we are going to use SQLite3 for learning purpose. Like the same, you can use Postgres, okay, Postgres SQL or MySQL, any kind of databases with Rails. So those kind of connections and configuration details will be here. Okay, so what are the two steps you need to do? First, you need to download the corresponding gem. If it's Postgres SQL, download gem, install Postgres SQL, and the second step, you need to mention the adapter here. Only two things. Okay, so this SQLite3 comes with Rails by default, so I didn't change that. You can specify whatever you are going to use. Just download the gem and use it with your adapter. That's it. Only two steps. Okay, you can change the settings very simply. You can use any one backend database. Okay, as of now we are going to use SQLite3. Okay, so the setup is done. Very simple. I'm going to use only this development mode database. So I'm going to create that. I have just given a name for that. So once you have done the changes, save it, okay, and open your command prompt. Hereafter, remember, whenever you are going to use or whenever you are create database or whenever you are going to do anything, keep your command prompt open. This is because all of your records or creation, everything is based on the commands. So whenever you are running your application or whenever you are creating model, view or controller files, you should keep your command prompt open. And if you are using Mac OS or some other OS, open your terminal. From there you can able to work on that. Okay, so right now we are getting into the script. I mean Ruby scripts Grey Canvas. That is the location of your app. So this is the current app we are using, right? It is stored inside this location. So you need to get into the location. So this is in my local machine. This is available in this location. In your local machine, whatever the URL, path you are using, you first get into the location and you can able to use that. So right now, let us create the database. Rails db create. Note down the command. It is very simple. Rails server we already know. Rails is one of the standard commands we are using. So using this Rails, we are asking the DB to create. Rails db : create. What it will do? It will fetch all the configuration from your database.yml file which you have given, and it will create the database accordingly. Okay, just press enter. It will create that. So remember, So whenever you are entering this one, make sure you are inside the corresponding directory layout of the folder. Get into the app from your command prompt location, then try this one. Okay. So when you do so, okay, you will get that. It was interrupted. Okay, anyway, so the database will get created right now, where you can able to check that inside your, we have given the DB folder, right? So inside your DB, you can able to check that Grey Campus _ development has been created right now. Here it is a database. Okay, inside the DB folder you can find out the database Grey Campus development.SQLite3. So now the database is available. So you can able to add the tables to that hereafter. Remember, database is different, tables are different. Database is the place where you are going to store your data in the form of tables, RDBMS, Relational Database Management System, that is called tables. So you will be storing your tables, your data in the table format. Okay, hereafter we are going to add the tables one by one. Okay, so that's it about the first step. What is the first step? You need to set up the DB using database.yml from your configuration folder. Then you need to run this command. What is the command you need to run? Rails db:create. That is the first two steps you need to do for the creation of the database. Just edit the database.yml file under configuration and just do rails db create. That will create the database. Okay. Second step, you need to create the corresponding MVC files. So MVC files you can create one by one. First, let us create the model. So before into that, let me give you the idea of what is the model we are going to create, what is the view we are going to create, and what is the HTML file controller we are going to create. Let me give you an idea. So what is that model? Model means database table, background table, we already know. So let us create a table in the name student. Okay. So the model file is nothing but the backend database we are going to create. Let us have the table name as student. Okay. So now let me give you the schema of the model. What is the model is going to have right now? If you are having a model or table, okay, it should have an ID. So that is the unique integer which is used for the identification purpose. Okay. So ID, name, and then age of the student. So the now this particular model is going to have ID, name, and then age of the student. Okay. So ID, name, age. These are the three schema. Otherwise, three columns I am going to have in my table called student. Okay. This is the first table we are going to create. That is called model. Next, we are going to create a controller. Controller means that is the middleman where you are going to write your script. Let us have the name as home controller. Okay. And finally, we need to create a view file. View file is nothing but the HTML file. So let us have the name called index. Usually, we will be using this index name for our HTML pages, right? So let me have this name index. So the model name is student, controller name is home, and view file name is going to be index. Okay. So with the extension HTML we can create later. First you need to create the model file. So how you can able to create that? That is very simple. Let me create. Rails generate model. So remember there is a inbuilt generator called Rails. Okay, generate. So this script, generate script, will create the model or controller files for you. So you need to run this command. Rails generate model. So what is the model we are going to use? Student, right? Sorry for the interruption. Okay, so Rails generate model with model name. What is the model name we are going to use? Student. So Rails generate model name. So when you are running this command, it will create two important changes in your app. What is the important change it will do? First, it will create a migration file. You may wonder what is that migration file. I will talk about that. And it will create a model file. Okay. So first it will create a migration file. Second, it will create a model file. You may wonder where these things will get created, ma'am. So I will tell you. So this migration file will be generated inside your DB. Model file will be getting created inside your model file. Let us see those two files. So inside your DB, there will be a folder called migrate, and under that you can find the migration files will be generated. You may wonder how these files are generated. Rails will generate these files automatically. Okay. And next one, how this particular model files will be, where it will get generated. Inside your app, we can see the MVC files over here. Models, views and controller files will be there. Okay. So inside your models, you can see the student.rb. This is the file. That means it will create a migration file and it will create a model file. Model file will be generated in the name student. Migration file name will be somewhat different. I will talk about that. In fraction of seconds. So let me give that. It will create two important changes in your application. One is migration file, another one is model file. Okay. What about this migration file? There is a number inside the name of the migration file, and what is this all about? Let me talk about the migration first. Migration file means moving from one place to another. You know the meaning of the word migration. Migration means moving from one place to another. Here we are using different kind of databases. We can use SQLite 3, we can use Postgres, and Rails can run on 3 different environments too. Development, test and then production. So you can move your database from one mode to another mode, otherwise one environment to another environment. You can move your application from one local machine to your production mode, something like that. All the movable files, okay, all the migration files will be interchangeable between other machines or other environments or other databases. That's why we are having the name of this table as migration file. Remember that. So whenever you are having a migration file, it will be having some standard code by default. What is the use of the migration file? Whenever you are moving your app from one environment to other environment or one machine to another machine, so like that it is movable file. So all the migration files will be available inside your DB folder. What they will hold, you are going to give the structure or columns of your table over here. Remember that. Okay. What is that movable file will have? This particular migration file will have the structure of your table. Remember that. I have created the table alone. I didn't give the columns which are available inside the table. So those kind of columns will be generated over here. Okay. You need to add it manually. So we are doing manual files creation, right? You need to do it manually. Okay. So what is that 2020 07 13 11 5 6 3 3? What is that? 14 digit number. So this 14 digit number is called version of that migration that is used to track the migration, which migration you are currently working. Okay. So right now this 14 digit number is used to track the corresponding migration when it was created. That is nothing but the timestamp. Timestamp means year, month, date, hours, minutes and seconds. This is the format. Okay. This timestamp is used to track which migration you are currently using, because if you are creating more than one table, more than one migration files will be there. So you need to track that. So at the time this version of the migration will be used. Okay. This 14 digit number starting migration file will start with 14 digit number. This 14 digit number is for tracking your migration file. Okay. So now let me add the structure of the table. What is the structure of the table? ID, name and age. There are 3 columns. ID, name and age in the table. Remember, whenever you are creating a particular model, that ID will be generated automatically by Rails. So we already know the concept called convention over configuration. So that concept, convention over configuration, by default Rails will write some kind of configuration for you. This is also one of the configuration. Rails will do it for you. So the ID, whatever model table you are creating, the ID will be generated automatically. So you don't need to specify the ID in that. So instead of that, you can add the age and then name. That means other 2 columns, name and then age. Okay, let me add these 2 columns to the table. What are the things we are going to add? Name and then age. Okay, so whenever you are specifying a particular column, there should be some data type for that, right? Name means that is a string. Okay, and age means that is integer, because usually we will be giving the ages in the integer value. So this string and integer, we already talked about that in the Ruby topics. Okay, so here make a colon. I am using it as a symbol. You may remember that string and symbol both are different. If you have anything, I mean colon before any name, that will be called as symbol. Why I am using symbol? It will be using the same object ID. That's why I have given colon name and colon age. And how this particular looping structure will be working? Because here there is a do loop, right? Do and keyword. That means a loop will be running to create the columns one by one. So I am adding a simple variable called t. Where this variable is coming from? It is coming from this code. So it's a block of code. Okay, do and within do and keyword, this block of code will be keep on looping, and first it will create the name, and then it will create the age, and it will create the timestamps. Okay, if you don't want the timestamps also, you can skip it. It is already available by default, so I'm just keeping it. Okay, so I have added two things, name and then age, to the migration file. As I mentioned you, the ID will be generated automatically. So now I am going to add name and then age columns to my table called students. Okay, so now my migration file is ready. That is, the structure of the file is ready. How you need to fix this structure to the table? Because we have created the Grey Campus development, that is the database name. Okay, so the database is available right now. You need to fix this first table. The table name is student. You need to fix it to the backend database. How you can do that? So for that purpose also, you need to run the same command, that is called Rails DB :migrate. Remember, whenever you are adding this Rails DB :migrate, it will fix your table to the backend database called Grey_Campus_development. Grey Campus is the place where you are going to store your tables. Student is the first table which we are going to migrate from our migration file. So when you run this command, now this particular table called student will be fixed through the backend database called Grey_Campus_development. So right now when you open this file, you can able to see that. Where you can open this file and how you can able to see that, there are some specific GUIs are available for that. For example, graphical user interface or softwares are available for that. That is called SQLite browser. Okay, so this SQLite browser is one of the specific software I am using for this particular SQLite 3 database. If you want to use that for Postgres, you can go with pgadmin 4. If you want to use it with MySQL, you can go with MySQL database server. So like that, lots of browsing tools are available. Otherwise, lots of softwares are available to open these kind of files. Okay, so now I am going to open this database. Where it is located exactly, this is available in our D drive, Ruby, the location, select the location. Okay, okay. This is Ruby scripts, I guess. Yeah, here, and within the Grey Campus, you can able to find out inside the DB folder Grey Campus_SQLite. Okay, so when I open the file, this particular DB SQLite browser, DB browser for SQLite 3. You may wonder where I can get it. It will be available as a free download. So where you can get it means you can get it from here. So SQLite browser download. When you go for this website, they will be having the standard versions. Okay, if you are using Mac or if you are using Ubuntu or anything, you can able to download from here. Okay, so this is the page where I get this particular, I downloaded this particular DB browser. Okay, from here, once you download, just a one-click installer. Once you download, this software will be available. So you can able to open this kind of GUIs and you can open your data, and even you can go and check your corresponding particular schema migration and students. As of now, there is no students. Okay, so ID, as I mentioned you, that ID is generated automatically. Name field, age field, and these timestamp. This timestamps has become two fields, created and updated. So these two fields will be get automatically filled with date and time. Whenever you are creating a particular record, these two fields will get filled automatically. You don't need to add anything. Rails will by default add the timestamps over here. Okay, so that is the idea. Now when you see the structure of the table in your student, you can able to see ID, that is the unique integer that has been created automatically, name, age, created and updated. So now this is the structure of your table, otherwise schema of your database. Okay, the first table name is student. Right now the student has been added. Second one, you can able to add the corresponding controller file. So same thing, to generate a controller, use the same concept, Rails generate controller name. So what is the controller name? We are going to use home. Okay, so let us run this one. So when you run this command, you can able to see that controller will get, it's get closed. Okay, so when you run this command, Rails generate controller cd ruby script. Whenever you are running, make sure you are getting into the app, then you are running the commands. Okay, so Rails G, you can use your shortcut called G. Instead of generate, you can use the shortcut called G, controller home. So once you are running this command, two important changes will be added to your app. First thing, it will create a controller inside your controller folder in the name home controller. That is the name we have given. Okay, so it will create a file in the name home, and inside your view it will create a empty folder called home. Okay, two things will happen. One, it will give a controller in the name home controller inside the controller, and inside your views it will create a empty folder. Okay, that is the second step. So if you want to create the MVC files, first create the model, then create the controller. Okay, so using the same command, Rails generate controller name, you can able to use this particular commands. Okay, so that is the idea. Once you have added the command, it will create the corresponding controllers inside your controller folder, and it will create a empty view inside your controller, inside your views in the name home. Okay, so single command, just one line of command for the controller. And finally the view file. So if you want to create the view file, you need to create a HTML file. Remember, your view file should be manually created, because HTML files should be created manually, then only they can able to add it, because model and controller files are Ruby files, so you can create it from your command prompts. But controller file, view file, inside the view, if you want to create the HTML file, it should be created manually, because HTML files we are going to add the code, right? So it should be created manually. So make a new file, okay, and add your command like hello Rails or something. Okay, whatever HTML code you want to see. So if you want to just a bit of HTML also, you can add it. h2 tag. Okay, so h2 is nothing but the header tag, which will print something in the header way. So I'm closing the tag as well. Okay, h2 tag with hello Rails with h2. So once I added this one, I need to store this file. So remember, whenever you are storing the file, you just give this particular name. Okay, that is called index. We already talked about, we should store it with the index name. So okay, right now I need to store it with index.html. So all of your HTML pages will be having this extension. As we are storing it manually, you need to give index.html. One more thing, you need to give one more extension called .erb. Remember that. It's not a plain HTML file. It is a file which is going to be index.html.erb, because it's going to be used with Rails. So ERB. What is that ERB means? ERB is nothing but embedding the Ruby code with HTML. RB means Ruby file. E means embedding. Embedding your Ruby script with HTML. That's why we are having one more extension called .erb. Index.html.erb. So you need to store it like this. Okay, so once you have done with the view file creation, that's it. You have created the model, controller, and then view file. Simple HTML file, index.html.erb. That's it. So once you have created all these things, it's time to run and check the output. What is the output you need to see? This hello Rails page. Okay, if you are seeing this hello Rails page in your browser, you are done with the MVC files creation. Let us check that. Remember, whenever you are want to see your output, remember to boot your server always. Okay, Rails server. So whenever you are booting this one, it will boot the inbuilt web server called Puma, and it will give you the port number 3000. So it will be keep on listening to the port number called 3000. So let us check this quickly, this output. So localhost colon 3000. Remember, whenever you are giving localhost colon 3000, it will give you the welcome page. Welcome abroad. You are riding on Rails. Like that, you will be getting the welcome page. But right now, this is not our page. This is the default welcome page. Right now, we need to see our page. What is the controller name we have created? Home controller. What is the view file we have created? Index. Remember that. Home index. So when I try to launch that URL, localhost colon 3000, home is the controller name, index is the view file name I have created, HTML file name. But it is telling you one error, routing error. Routing error means the router cannot able to understand this URL. That means the router is not able to find this path. So what we need to do, whatever URL you are going to use with your Rails application, you need to mention it. Otherwise, you need to define it in your router. Okay, remember that. You may wonder where this router files can be seen. So this router file can be seen inside your configuration. So inside your configuration, we already worked on the database.yml file, right? In the same location, you can able to find the corresponding routes.rb. Okay. So in this routes.rb file, you need to give that particular URL which you are going to use, because Rails cannot recognize your own paths. Okay, you need to give that. So you need to give home/index. Okay, so home/index is the common URL we are using. We are going to get that page. Get means we are going to read that page. Remember, in HTTP we can use get, put, post or delete. I will talk about that get, put, post, delete HTTP verbs later. Right now, get means fetching. We are going to read a particular page. Okay, home and then index. These two pages I am going to read it right now. So home is a controller name. Index is the corresponding HTML view page. Okay, controller name is home. Okay, and view file name is index. Okay, remember, whenever you are creating and storing, you should store it inside the empty folder home that has been created. Inside with that name, you need to give index.html.erb. So controller name with the corresponding view file name. So just give this URL and come to your browser and refresh. Right now, you will be getting the first output of your screen. Welcome, hello Rails, that page. So how this is happening? Whenever you are using that particular MVC, and whenever you are working with this particular manual MVC files creation, this particular routes will load the home controller with index.html.erb page, and it will give you the output of this particular index, whatever the content you are having in that file, index.html.erb. Right now we are having the content called hello Rails. Okay, so that content will get displayed in your browser. Now let us check the home index. Okay, so that router error should go and it should display hello Rails. So now you are seeing hello Rails from that page, that is called index.html.erb. That is the code you have given, right? So that hello Rails is getting displayed over here. So right now we have created this database, we have created the model, view and controller files, and we have added the routes also, 5 steps. Once you have done that, now you can able to see, connect all these MVC files and the final output hello Rails. Okay, so we have created our first Rails application with manual MVC files. Now I am going to tell you one secret. So you are doing 5 different kind of steps, right? So model, view, files creation. If a single command is creating everything for you, including the routes, okay, that will be good, right? So that is called scaffold. Scaffold means base of your application. What is the base of your Rails application? That is nothing but the MVC. Okay, model, view, controller. So that is why we have created manually right now. But if you can create the files in a single command, that is awesome, right? So that is called scaffold. We are going to use that. Before getting into that, I want to show you how we are going to use the scaffold. Remember, as we are going to create everything in a single command, all the names will be using the same name. Let us take the book as an example. Okay, so whenever you are creating a book, scaffold, it will create the model in the same name called book. It will create the controller in the same name called book, and all of your view files will get stored under the name called books. Okay, so view, controller and model will be having the same name called book. Okay, let us create this one. So your book model is going to have ID, name, and then instead of age, let us add one more thing, author. Okay, so ID, name of the book, and then author of the book. So this is the table we are going to create, and the controller name is book and the view file name is index. Not only index file, lots of files will be generated. Let us talk about that. So model, view, and then controller. So it will be generated in the same command. So what is the command that we need to use for that? That is very simple. Same Rails command, that is called generate. Instead of controller or instead of model, you need to give scaffold. Okay, Rails generate scaffold, scaffold name. What is the name of the name? Scaffold, that is called book. Okay, and we are going to add the name. Okay, what is the data type? String. And author, what is the data type? String. Very simple. In a single line, we are going to create everything. So you need to give the name of the scaffold, as well as you need to give the corresponding column with its corresponding database. Okay, Rails generate a scaffold in the name book with name, that is the data type colon string, author, the data type is string. Okay, very simple single line script. Rails generate the scaffold with the name book and name with string data type, author with string data type. Okay, it will take a simple lengthy process and your files will get generated. Okay, so let us see what are the files that has been generated. That is very simple. I will show you from the corresponding folder structure, so you can able to see that very quickly. So Ruby scripts, so Grey Campus. So this is the app that has been generated. So manually, when I create manually, I have created the model file first, right? The model file will be available in your app. So you can see a model is available in the name book. I didn't use Rails generate model. Okay, the model file is available here. And next one, a migration file, right? So inside your DB, there is a file called folder called migrate. Under that, there is a migration file. When I created that manually, I have added these name and age manually, right? But whenever you are opening this create book hereafter, you can see the name and author is available by default. Okay, 1 minute, let me open here. So when you see that with your corresponding navigation from here, you can able to see that. So the second migration file will be generated for the book with name and author inbuilt. I didn't create the file, Rails created that automatically. Okay, migration file created, model file created. Next one, the controller file. So the controller file can be seen in your app folder. Inside the controller, there is a controller called books. Home we have created, but books controller has been created automatically. And what about the views? So the view files will be available inside your books, okay, folder, and you can see the files are generated. Not only index file, more than one files are getting generated. So I will talk about the use of the files later. Right now you just understand all the files. And what about the routes? Let us check the routes once again. So where the routes configuration, routes.rb, that resources based books, even the routes also added automatically. The 5 steps, the 4 steps, not database creation, creating the model, creating the controller, creating the view, updating the routes. All the 4 steps are done by the scaffolding itself. So what is the next step we need to do? We have created a table called book, right now. That scaffold is generated here, this particular model called book, right? So that book need to be migrated to the backend database. You need to fix it to the backend database. So how you can fix it? Remember, whenever you are creating a table or model, remember to migrate it to the backend database. Right now I am migrating, so you can see Rails DB migrate. So whenever you are creating a model file, don't forget to run the migration command. So that will take your second table book and it will fix it in the backend database. What is the first table name? Student. What is the second table name? Book. Okay. Now it is migrated. Now let us check how this is coming. So now you just refresh your database or open your database. You can see the first table is student here and the second table is books here. ID will be added automatically, name and then author of the book automatically added because from the migration file it has been added, created and updated. Those timestamp has been added because that particular migration file is like that, name and author. I didn't manually add anything. These two lines are added with the scaffold code. Right now it's time to check the output. Initially we have spent nearly 15 minutes of our time to create the model, controller and view files, but within 1 minute of time we have created all the files. So it's time to check the output. Whenever you are trying to check the output, don't forget to run your web server called Puma. So Rails server, short you can use Rails S as well. So that's why I am using Rails S here. Okay, once you are running, you can able to run your application. So what is the URL you need to give? Home index is our manual URL. Right now we have created everything in the name books, right? So you just give books. Localhost :3000/books. That is the name of the scaffold you are using. Okay. Now you can see that books are listed. But right now we didn't add any new books, right? Just a simple view page is coming. This is coming from this index file. So in your views, there is an index file, right? So this is coming from your index file, not this one, books index file. Okay, so this index file is having books, name and then author. So this output is coming from here. Okay, don't worry about the coding if you are not able to understand, because I will explain those everything whenever we are doing on the coding part. Right now we just understand corresponding files are created by scaffold. So now I am going to show you another stuff. Can you see? When I click on new book, it is having a form by default. I didn't add any forms or any coding, right? So the scaffold is used to create your own books also. So it is creating the code to generate your own records. So right now I am going to create 2 records. I am going to use this book and I am going to enter the entries for that. When I click on create book, it will be created. You can see book was successfully created. And when I click on back, I can able to list out and see the books that has been created right now. So the files, when I click on the new book, the form is ready. Whenever you are entering the details on the form, let me add one more book and author 2. Those records are stored in the backend database and it is listed over here. What is the thing happening? I can able to create a new record as well. I can able to show the records as well. What about this edit? Now if you want to edit that book as well, you can able to do. Okay, book 2. I am updating the record right now. Can you see? Book 1 become and book 2 become book TOW. That means I am editing that book. Okay, let me delete this one. Okay, so when I delete that, it will automatically get deleted too. So I can able to create a new book. I can able to show a book. I can able to edit a book, or I can able to delete a book. How this is happening? Because of the magic called scaffold. So scaffold will take care of the basic create, read, update and delete operation. You may hear the terms already: create, read, update and delete. That is nothing but the basic functionality of your scaffold. So let me recall what is how this is happening. So whenever you are making a MVC file manually, you need to create it on your own. But scaffold will create the MVC files for the basic CRUD operation. So let me get back to the corresponding scaffold workflow and let me talk about that. How this scaffold is working. Very simple. Whenever you are creating the books, controller, model, view in the same file, these 4 operations are automatically done with the Rails coding part. Create. Create means it is going to create a new record called book and it is going to save the record. Okay. So that is the thing happening over here. Whenever you are creating a new book, you are adding book 2 or book 3, any entries, okay, and it will be added to the corresponding database. Okay, so now the book has been successfully created. This operation is automatically done by the scaffold coding. So coding part, you don't need to worry about that. Right now you just understand where the concept is coming from. Scaffold will use some kind of scripts to create a particular record. And what about this reading a record? Reading a record is nothing but showing the record. Whenever you are trying to show the record, a single record will be shown here. So this is book 1, author 1. That is the first book, first record. Here show means third record. Book 3, author 3, that is the third record. Okay. So that is called reading a particular record from the database. So this is the one. So reading a particular data from the database, that is called read. Okay. Then update. So whenever I am doing the edit operation, okay, I can able to edit or update of this code. Okay. Edit means I am editing some existing entry and I am updating that. So now book 3 become book TH or EE. Okay. So I have updated that code. So now that updated operation is coming from this particular scaffold called update operation. Okay. Create, read, update and delete. Finally, if you want to destroy a particular record, you can simply click on the delete, that will get destroyed. So whenever you are doing that, that record will get deleted from the database. So scaffold is making the code to create a record, read a particular record, update a particular record and delete a particular record. So the first letter of create is C, second letter of first letter of read is R, and the first letter of update is U, and the final letter is called D. That is called CRUD operation. So sometimes it may be pronounced as CRUD. Okay, that is your way of pronunciation. CRUD. Create, read, update and delete. C stands for create, R stands for read, U stands for update and D stands for delete. Okay, CRUD operation. So these CRUD operations are taking place inside your scaffold on this function method names new, save, find, all, update, delete. So you can find this method inside your scaffolded code. So where is the scaffolded code is coming from? This books controller. So you can see those coding from here, book.all. So that index will load all of your books records. That is, it will fetch all the records from the books index, and show will show you a single record. New will create a new record. So new method. Edit will fetch a particular record and create will save a particular record. Okay. Update will update a particular record and delete will destroy a particular record. Okay. This is how scaffold is doing this coding in this particular controller, that is the books controller, that will get generated automatically, right? When it's go for index, it will use this all method to collect all the tables, books tables, I mean all the records from the book table. Whenever it's going to show, it will show you the corresponding record. Whenever you are getting new, it will create a new record. Whenever you are editing and updating, it will update the particular record using update method. Whenever you are doing the create method, it will save the particular record. Whenever you are destroying, that will destroy the particular record. Rest of the code, you don't need to worry about that. Later videos, we will talk about that. Right now, just understand this coding is coming from your books controller, and the books controller is using these following methods as a scaffold workflow to do the basic CRUD operation. Create will use new and save method. Read will use find and all method. Update will use update method. Delete will use destroy method. Okay, that is called basic CRUD operation. This is how your scaffold is working. Scaffold is nothing but the basic MVC files. It will create the files for and business logic for your CRUD operation. create, read, update and delete. You may wonder why this CRED is coming to action. If you are going for mathematics, even whenever you are going for engineering mathematics or any super degree in maths, the basic operations are nothing but addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Like that, if you are going for any web application or any big web applications or anything, the basic operations is nothing but the CRED operation. What are the things you are going to do with the particular database? Either you are going to create a record or read a record or update a record or delete a record. Only these 4 operations are possible, whatever database you are using. Okay, so that's why scaffold workflow, this is the base of any web application. That is nothing but the CRED. If you know how to write this CRED coding, create, read, update and delete, you can able to write your own scripts. Okay, manually I suggest you to use this particular concept of manual MVC files creation. For learning purpose, you can use the scaffold. Okay, so that is the difference between MVC manual files creation. In a single command, scaffold will create all the necessary files for create, read, update and then delete. So this is how your scaffold is working. Right now, I will suggest do some kind of homework after watching this video. So, in your guides rubyonrails.org, there is an official website. Okay, so this official website will be having a project called blog application. So, we are following this guide for our reference, right? I already told you. So, whatever the topics I taught you today will be found here. Hello Rails. From starting from here, you can able to find a mini project that is called blog application. So I just want you to try with your, it will take only 3 to 4 hours of your time to complete this basic. So without scaffold, how you can do this CRED operation? With scaffold, that is easy. Rails is doing, right? So without scaffold, how you can do the particular CRED operation manually? Those concepts are given in this particular guide. So I just want you to work on the same. Okay. So at end of every module, otherwise end of every video, you will be having a corresponding assignment. So in the first video, you need to try your installation and create your first manual Rails application, right? Here I suggest you to create this blog application and see how to create the CRED operations without scaffolding. Okay. This blog application will be helpful to you. Okay. Okay. So let us complete what we have learned. So in this video, we have talked about MVC manual files creation, scaffolding, what is the work of the scaffold with CRED operation, create, read, update and delete. Okay. So thank you so much for watching this video. I suggest you to subscribe to our channel and to get the latest learning playlist, live expert sessions and much more. Like the video, share the video with your friends and make use of all the available resources. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay ahead and stay skilled with Grey Campus.